Welcome to the show. When Free Speech Nation first aired last June, it was decided that this show would be committed to what has become known as the culture wars. In each episode, we would discuss and analyse the antics of those culture warriors who wish to dismantle all societal norms in order to advance their own regressive and illiberal agenda. At the time, some people did ask the question, well, will you have enough to talk about? As it happens, we can't keep up. I mean, this week was no exception. So on Monday, a story broke about another accusation of blackface, but this time it wasn't Justin Trudeau, although God knows how many more videos of him in blackface are out there waiting to be discovered. This one was actually about a DJ in Arizona who was lambasted by local diversity advocates for performing in blackface at a school event, but turns out he was black. And, of course, the activists couldn't just admit they were wrong. They couldn't do it. So one of them doubled down and even posted 2 images of the DJ in question to prove that he must have darkened his face a bit, or maybe it was the lighting. He didn't know. And for some reason, he couldn't just say sorry. Also this week, a story broke about how police officers across the UK are being trained to avoid phrases like sir, madam, or guy. I mean, I suppose they could say things like, or you, but it's not so polite, is it? Inspector Steve Allison, chairman of Hertfordshire Police LGBT Plus Network, said this work is so important, nobody should be made to feel unsafe because of their sexuality or gender identity. And there you have it, unsafe. So that's the telltale word. As I've mentioned before on this show, the word unsafe is straight out of the lexicon of the new religion of critical social justice, because they believe that words are dangerous, which is why they support censorship. And this gets to the heart as to why the culture war is now so important. And when I raised these concerns years ago, I was told, well, don't worry about it. It's just a few students on campus getting overexcited or some idiot activists online. None of it affects anyone in the real world, does it? Of course, no one says that to me anymore. Because now it's the police, it's the civil service, it's the NHS, it's the media, it's academia, it's the corporate class, it's HR departments up and down the country. The activists who are waging this culture war are now among the most powerful people in society. But unlike elected representatives, you can't vote them out. Do you want a police force that doesn't attempt to reinforce gender identity ideology, a religious belief? Too bad. If you vote Tory, if you vote Labour, you'll still get the same result, because you can't vote out the College of Policing, which writes the guidelines for cops and is ideologically captured. You can't vote out the NHS, which promotes the ideological conflation of gender and sex. Even the current Tory government advances the notion that words are unsafe and is attempting to legislate accordingly in its new online safety bill. And even if the Tories weren't under its influence, the civil service, the machinery of government, is totally captured. So when we say this new powerful movement is authoritarian, we're not being hyperbolic. The media has fallen under its spell too. Do you ever wonder why you keep reading articles in which the word black is capitalised and the word white isn't? Or why you can find yourself reading about a male criminal, but the journalist keeps referring to him as she? Or why all of a sudden the entire media class is using plural pronouns such as them and they to describe one person? Have grammatical standards dropped all of a sudden? No, it's because there are style guides that enforce the new ideology of the ruling class. Look at this article from this week's Metro. Woman shouted, "Kill all Muslims," and threatened to take out gun on train. Not once in that article does it mention that this person is a man who identifies as a woman. It just talks about how she threatened people, she began undressing, she shouted about killing Muslims. I mean, if you couldn't see the picture of the perpetrator, who is obviously male, you'd be forgiven for thinking this was very inaccurate journalism. And like I say, these decisions weren't taken democratically. The elites just decided it for themselves. Stonewall has been repeatedly accused of misrepresenting the Equality Act and pretending that the Act protects gender identity rather than gender reassignment, which anyone with Google can see is incorrect. And the NHS has apparently capitulated with disastrous results for gender non-conforming children who have been persuaded that they are in the wrong body. Gender non-conformity in youth, by the way, is common among kids who turn out to be gay adults. But many of them are being fast-tracked into medication or being advised to take puberty blockers. In my opinion, we're dealing with a movement that is effectively medicalising homosexuality. It's strange to think that Stonewall, which was once such an important body for the promotion of gay rights, is probably now it's the biggest single threat to gay people in this country. So it's excellent to see that Health Secretary Sajid Javid is finally launching an urgent inquiry into the NHS and the way in which it is prescribing gender hormone treatment to children. This is long overdue. Javid has made the point that there is so much fear around this issue that people are simply refusing to talk about it. He's very rightly drawn comparisons with the Rotherham grooming scandals, where men were allowed to continue raping children with impunity because police were afraid of accusations of racism. And if you've ever tried to criticise these groups who promote gender identity ideology to children, groups such as Mermaids or the NHS Tavistock Clinic, you will have seen for yourself how activists will attempt to bully you into silence with accusations of transphobia or hatred. But even with Javid's inquiry and the forthcoming Cass report, I would be wary of saying that the tide is turning. Various institutions have withdrawn from Stonewall's clutches, and now that the public is learning more about the damage that Stonewall does to gay rights and women's rights, it does seem as though their time is over. The head of Stonewall, Nancy Kelly, now says openly anti-gay things, such as comparing lesbians who aren't attracted to men to sexual racists. She's also compared gender-critical feminism to anti-Semitism. It's ugly stuff. And Stonewall has only been able to survive this long because it refuses to debate. I've invited Stonewall onto this show more times than I can remember. I would like to hear them explain why they've redefined the word homosexual on their website and promotional materials to mean same-gender attracted, which isn't what it means at all, it means same-sex attracted, and why they are promoting an ideology that shames gay people for being exclusively attracted to members of their own sex. Stonewall never agree to come onto my show because, of course, they're peddling a new religion, which isn't a view that can be defended through reasonable debate. So while it might be starting to feel as though the culture warriors are in retreat, do not be fooled. This new religion has only been prominent for about 10 years or so, but in that limited time, we've seen that whenever their lies are exposed, they always double down. They shout louder, they threaten more, and they won't give up without a fight. So don't expect any time soon for journalists to stop gaslighting us about the sex of criminals, or for the NHS to stop accommodating males on female wards and then denying that they are doing so, or for so-called diversity experts to stop attempting to reinstate racial division among children through critical race theory and other means, or for activists to stop insisting that we remove historical monuments aided and abetted by politicians who are too scared not to do their bidding. Much as I would love for this culture war to be at an end, its chief antagonists are in it for the long haul. And like all fanatical religious movements, they cannot be reasoned with, they cannot be dissuaded, and they're not going anywhere.